Ormston, who will be celebrating their 75th anniversary on March 11th, and they're going to have an open house on March 14th at the Heritage United Methodist Church in Waverly. So, first of all, congratulations on your wedded bliss for so long.
Thank you.
So, first of all, who wants to tell the story about how they met? How you met?
Well, there was three cousins lived within a close to Bremer here.
Mm-hmm.
And Harold lived a mile north and 3 or 4 miles west. He went to a party in Waverly one night and met Marcella Wilson, who lived 11 miles straight south on the crossroads between Black Hawk and Bremer County. And she lived a quarter mile east of that section.
Mm-hmm.
He took my cousin Ray Lagershow, who lives a mile north and a quarter mile west of Bremer, down on a blind date to that same corner, and he met Virginia Kofed, who lived a quarter mile south.
Mm-hmm.
Later, Ray took me down to that same corner and met Babs, who lived a quarter of a mile west rather. So them three lived within a mile and a half of each other. Us three lived within a mile and a half of each other. We all married the same girl.
No.
The girls we met down there. And the other two couples celebrate at least 60 years. And they're all four of them are deceased now, but we're fortunate enough we're going to make our 75th.
So each of you met at a corner at a place down near the Bremer Black Hawk line down near Janesville.
4 square corner. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right. And so, Babs, when you first saw Dick, what was your thoughts of him?
Oh, I thought he was lovely.
Mm-hmm. How so?
Yes, I did. I liked him from day one.
How so?
How what?
How so? Why?
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 Very polite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what did you think about Babs?
Well, something must ring a bell right away because we exchanged class rings that night.
Oh, we did?
Yes, we did, and we'll change them back later, but we were bonded right then.
Mm-hmm. So, Dick, so you were attending which school back then?
Waverly.
I was Waverly.
Waverly High, and then Janesville Consultant. So be Waverly High, right? Waverly High School back then. Yeah.
Back in 1943.
1943 is when you met, and so what was the courtship like?
Well, you know that during war, so gas was scarce. Sometimes we didn't meet once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have the gas to get down there, and also when we did meet later on. After I graduated in 43, she graduated in 44. Babs had a job at Rast in Waterloo. So I did get enough gas to go down and see her, printed every Sunday. But coming back, it would take me right at 45 minutes to get home because the speed limit was 35 and the tires were getting pretty thin.
Mm-hmm. And Babs, getting you and Dick getting together on the weekends. Tell me a few of the stories that you guys went through.
I don't know what kind of stories to tell him.
That's a long time ago.
All right. So now you much of 43 and 44 dating, and so how did you pop the question, Dick?
Well, it was a nice summer day. It was on the 14th of February.
Valentine's
45.
Day. Mm-hmm.
I went shopping in Waterloo and got a diamond. Took her out to the farm. Our folks lived on that Black Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
County. I guess she's in the house. I just went out and I said, I don't know. I said, would you like to wear this ring? And she took it and ran to the barn and showed it to her mother.
My mother was in the house with me. and she grabbed it and went to the barn to show Daddy.
So you just said, "Would you like to wear this ring?" You didn't say, "Will you marry me?" But you know what he meant, right? Right, Babs?
Pardon?
You know what he was going after, right, Babs?
I hope.
Well, so it was Valentine's Day of 1945.
Yeah.
And then you got married about a little less than a month later.
Yep, 3 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
We knew I was going to go to service. In fact, my dad was head of the draft board in Beverly County.
Yeah.
And he delayed my going by 2 weeks. So the 27th I went, but we got married the 11th of March in the Methodist Church at Janesville. And there, I wore the suit I had. My brother wore his suit. We wore what we had. She did in a nice wedding gown. She had to borrow some shoes because blue shoes.
Shoe rationing, and I didn't have any white ones.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go begging for sugar to make a wedding cake because sugar was scarce. But it was a lovely day, about like this, real sunshiny, warm day, close to 60.
Mm-hmm. And now, of course, World War II is still waging on, starting at least in Europe, it was starting to wind down, and basically it was getting to its climax in the Pacific. So, what was that? Following the news of the war during that time, and knowing that you, Dick, were going to be drafted eventually. What was that like going through that time?
Through my training.
No. Well, I mean, going before going into the service and following the news.
Well, all the time, I just worked around Dad's farm and here and there. And after 44. She worked at Rass in Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I knew I was going to go sometime. And I went, when I did leave the 27th of March, in front of Stauffer's drugstore on the Waverly Main Street.
And where was that?
I went to Louisiana for basic training.
Where was Stauffer's at the time?
On the south side of the street.
On Bramer?
Yeah, about across from where East Diner is now.
Oh, East Bramer? Okay.
Just about there, yeah.
Okay, all right.
There was a busload of us went from Beverly County.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Camp Livingston, Louisiana, and went basic training there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long that lasted, but I was loaded with money. My base pay was $50. They took $22 out for wife support and added $28, so she got a $50 check. Everybody took out a $7.50 bond. We had $6.50 life insurance. So much for laundry. So at the end of the month, I had less than $10. That got me by on my ice cream cone or something once in a while. When we got out of basic, I wanted more money, so I joined the paratroopers. Went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
So the airborne.
$50 more.
Mm-hmm.
Through basic training there, I made 8 jumps. And while I was there, she came and spent about 2 months with me. Lived in a little upstairs apartment. Traveled by commercial street buses. I didn't have a car. I would take an army bus into Waverly, or into town, Fort Benning, into town, and then a city bus to her apartment, and 2 hours later I had to be out and catch that city bus to catch the army bus to go back to base.
Mm-hmm.
And while she was there, she worked in a little cookie factory.
Mm-hmm. And
anyway, graduated from there, and she came home, and I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with the intent of being shipped overseas. I got to Fort Bragg, and I'd had a half year typing. And they seen that I had that, and they said, "We need you more here than going overseas." So I got an office job in division headquarters. I could type 20, 25 words a minute if everything weren't good.
So
That was in October.
So you stayed domestic instead of going to Europe or Japan.
But that was in October. I got there, and before Christmas they said, "No, you don't get a furlough." 2 days before Christmas, yeah, you can go home. Well, I went down to Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is next to Fort Bragg, and there was no standing room when on the train, couldn't get on. Somebody knew their way around, and they said, "Hey, there's a bus leaving here in 15 minutes going to another town 60 miles away." We got on that and caught a train going to Chicago, going to Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
Got into Waterloo about, I'd say, 11:30 at night, and they said the bus depot is just a block or two away, and they're leaving for Mason City in a half hour. So I got on the bus, and then headed north toward Janesville, old 218.
Right.
And the curve south of Janesville is the Black Hawk Bremer County line.
7th Street.
So I got off the bus there on a little below zero and walked 3.5 miles to her house and surprised them.
What do you think about that, Babs?
Oh, I just couldn't believe it. Here he come walking in the bedroom, and I'd been sleeping so sound. Oh dear.
Mm-hmm. So how long? When did you get discharged?
October 46.
46. Okay.
But anyway, after that, her uncle had sold her a 37 Chevy two-door, and we took that back to Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That was the 1st of January, 46.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to headquarters, division headquarters, and she got a job out at the Fort Bragg base working for the federal government. Besides keeping the soldiers' records, we were discharging a lot of enlisted men to my office. She did the same thing at Fort Bragg, only she discharged officers. And she was fortunate to discharge Dr. Hemingway from Waverly.
Oh.
And
So little home connection there.
yeah, there was. Yeah, fortunate.
Mm-hmm. So you left left the army in you said 48? 46. Okay.
46.
So did you end up coming back up this way eventually?
Did what?
Come back up this way eventually?
Oh yes. Yeah, we came home and got home about the end of October, and I worked for Mervyn Whitney over here for 3 months, and the 1st of February we started farming. I was born a quarter mile south of Bremen at my dad's farm,
Mm-hmm.
and his land went half mile west. Well, the farm a mile west had to be for sale, so the butt end of that farm met the butt end of his farm, and we lived down there for 11 years, renting from Market
Right
Creek.
down there.
Mm-hmm.
And through the years, there and up here, we rented that 100 acres, and maybe 40 acres here, 60 acres there, different neighbors, and we never signed a contract. A handshake was all we needed them days.
How long did you farm?
Well, in 1956 then, we bought the farm here,
Uh-huh.
and in 1957 we adopted our first daughter, Dana, and then in February 58 we moved the farm here,
Mm-hmm.
140 acres. And then in 1961 we adopted our second daughter, Denise.
So both of your kids are adopted.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. We got perfect girls. But anyway,
Brains. Oh, they're smart.
Mm-hmm.
we
So how just to make a long story short, about how many years did you do farming?
50,
50 years. All right.
47 and 97.
Wow. Okay. And so you retired in 97 from farming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Babs, what did you do during that time? Were you
Farmed. I
just
drove a tractor and everything.
so you helped out?
Oh,
You didn't take a job, any other jobs in town or anything like that?
no, and whatever job I did have, I guess. Oh, I still worked for the creamery, didn't I?
Well, the first 12 years we did not have any children.
Mm-hmm.
We had a small square baler. We baled hay, straw.
Right.
She drove the tractor, I loaded them. And then in about, I'd say late 50s, I got on a creamery board at Bremer Co-op. In the 60s, I was the president. And in the 70s and early 80s, I was secretary treasurer. And she did a lot of book work for me then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So now I saw your, like I said before we went on, started recording. Saw your announcement. Now you, I understand you have 10 kids and
grandchildren.
10 grandchildren and 18 great grandchildren.
We got lots of them. Oh, they're adorable.
Mm-hmm. And but your older daughter now lives in Illinois, and then your younger one lives in Waverly.
She lives in our house.
Just down the way. Mm-hmm. So, how do you? So, what's the secret to being together for 75 years? What's the secret? You may have heard people ask you that question.
Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Love. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never.
We, I don't think we ever had a great big disagreement in our lifetime, ever.
No. And
We just.
I was raised in a family. My mother and father never ever argued.
I
Never.
think we were disciplined as children, and we passed that discipline on to our children. So they've respected us, and we've been in a respected neighborhood. We've had all good neighbors, and that makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. So then, of course, you had your 50th 95, your 50th anniversary in 95. And was a pretty big party back then?
No.
Mm.
No. Our daughter Denise just lost her husband after Christmas before that. And our daughter in Illinois was expecting twins at the end of February, so we didn't celebrate at all.
All right. Now, did you do anything for your for any other milestones, like your 60th, or is this your, or is this what you have coming up next Saturday? Is this your first big celebration?
That's probably the only celebration. On our 25th, we did have our wedding party together, but that's all.
Mm-hmm.
And I only got a brother and a sister left from our wedding party.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of all deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any. My brother, I had one brother, and he's gone too.
Mm-hmm.
He died.
So your immediate family, parents and siblings are no longer around. You're saying so.
I don't have anybody.
Right. So then now, of course, like I said, you're celebrating your 75th with the open house at Heritage United Methodist Church in on the west edge of Waverly. What are you expecting for out of that?
Well, Kelly Lentz is planning it for us.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're going for 150. I don't know if there's that many there or not.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're planning for.
Well, 2 for every year that you're married.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll see your announcement or this story, and maybe get quite a bit more. So,
The Waterloo paper had it on Sunday already.
Yeah, the
We
celebrations.
was in the Burger King, and 3 couples congratulated us then already.
Uh-huh.
And one couple came over with ice cream cones and says, "Happy anniversary."
Yeah, but do you feel that you can make it to 100? Or at least 100 years old?
Oh yeah, I'll make it to 100. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that.
I don't know. We just live one day at a time. We don't move very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Back in it's history. Back in 1983, for a week, she had cancer.
Mm.
Everybody claimed she'd died before the next morning.
What kind of
She's
cancer?
still with us.
What kind of cancer?
Hodgkin's number 4.
Hodgkin's. How was going through that?
Oh, it was tough, but I had my mother yet,
Mm-hmm.
and My mother was a registered nurse,
No.
and I don't know.
No, your mother's gone. She died in 56.
Yeah.
And you was, this is in 83.
Oh, okay. Okay. You're right.
But you want the rest of the story? Doug Oldham, probably, you don't know about him.
Right.
He was a country singer, religious singer. He and his piano player had a concert at Wartburg on Thursday night and nothing to do Friday. And them days they traveled commercial buses. So Vernon Whitney brought them out to our farmhouse over here. And she is so weak, she laid on our hospital bed, couldn't get her hands off her body, couldn't see me. He came in the house and talked to her and prayed, took her arm, and she said fire went up her arms. He left. 15 minutes later, she got out of bed on her own. We sat on the front steps, and she seen birds 200 feet away. That was her recovery.
Wow. A little bit of a miracle there.
It was a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, we've been on a lot of health drives here and there. Red Cross, blood. She worked a lot of blood banks. I gave 15 gallons of blood. I've been a township clerk for 70 years. So that's about it.
All right. So what one piece of advice would either of you give a new couple that are just getting started on their lives together?
Patience.
And
Love
they
and
don't
patience.
have to have everything in that house when they start out. We didn't have that much, but I could fix things up. I thought we had a beautiful home, but it was junk.
The first 2 years when I lived down the road, we had no running water and outdoor toilet.
Right. Well, that's how it was back then.
1947.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congratulations on your 75 years of matrimony, and best of luck to you. Hopefully, we will see you another 25 to 75 down the road.
I hope I'm up with the Lord.
Okay. Well, if not, you'll have plenty of friends and family around here. All right. Thank you both.